Hello and welcome to Nikolai's Genetics Lessons, and today's question is: what are the genotypes of individuals 5 and 6? Let's analyze this pedigree. We see that this trait appear in every generation, so it doesn't skip any generations, which would be indication of the recessive genetic disorder. Also, let's count how many females and males are affected. So 1, 2, 3, 4 females and 1, 2, 3 males. Usually when we have sex-linked trait, or usually it is X-linked trait, because on the X chromosome there are more than 1000 genes and just very few on the Y chromosome. So usually all the traits which we call sex-linked, we mean X-linked. And imagine that, for example, we have a defective X chromosome with a frequency in a population as 0.1 or 10%. That means that males who has only one X chromosome also would have the same frequency of this genetic disorder, which is going to be equal to 10%. But females have two such X chromosomes, and probability for them to get two defective X chromosomes would be 0.1 times 0.1, or it's going to be equal to 1%. So as you see, if trait is X-linked, then we are going to see in this example 10 times more affected males than affected females. If the frequency of the defective allele that specifies certain trait in a population is going to be even smaller, for example 1%, then 1% of the males would be affected and only 1 out of 10,000 females would be affected. So this is not X-linked recessive genetic disorder, and the only explanation that this is autosomal dominant genetic disorder. So normal phenotype in this case, and genotype is going to be small a, and this female is going to have dominant allele which specify genetic disorder, and normal recessive allele which is in this case normal. And that means that, for example, genotype of this person is going to be two normal recessive alleles, two normal recessive alleles for this person, and this person inherited from the mother side one dominant allele and one recessive allele from the father side. So we know that genotype of this person have to be heterozygous. And as for the other people here on this pedigree, this person have to be heterozygous, this one homozygous recessive, and the two daughters are going to be homozygous recessive, and one daughter inherited dominant allele from the mother side and recessive allele from the father side. What is also confirms this suggestion that this is autosomal dominant genetic disorder is the ratio of affected to unaffected in the generation number 2 and generation number 3. As you see, it is increased. Here it is only 1 out of 3 affected, and here 3 out of 4 affected. So you see the ratio have changed. So we in this case have one parent who is homozygous recessive, so homozygous recessive, and another parent who is heterozygous. When we build simple Punnett square, we can see that 50% of the progeny would be affected. Of course, we do not see 50% here because 3 children. If this family would have, for example, 10 children, we would see that about 50% would be affected and 50 would be unaffected. But here two parents are heterozygous, so the genotype capital A small a, capital A small a, they are both affected, and as you see, we expect that 3/4 of the progeny of this couple are going to be affected. And this is exactly what we see here, that those people who are affected, the ratio affected to unaffected increased in comparison, for example, with this couple's progeny. We also can specify genotypes of these 3 affected persons, but we don't know whether it's going to be homozygous dominant or heterozygous. So going to be 2 dominant alleles or only 1 dominant allele. But we know for sure that at least one allele is dominant. And genotype of this person who shows normal phenotype have to be small a, small a. Genotype as we see here. And what is also interesting and confirms our observation that this female that we suggest is homozygous recessive, and if it is rare genetic disorder, we also assume that this male who is unrelated to this family have to be homozygous normal. And of course, 2 homozygous normal people who have only recessive alleles would have the progeny that all are going to be homozygous recessive and are going to be phenotypically normal. So this is autosomal dominant genetic disorder, and genotypes of individual 5 and 6 have to be heterozygous. Some of you may also ask, can it be X-linked dominant genetic disorder? As I said, if it's going to be X-linked recessive genetic disorder, we are going to see that ratio of affected males and females are going to be different. But what if it is X-linked dominant genetic disorder? Let's take a look. That means that this male have to have one defective X chromosome and one normal Y chromosome. So let's assume that this male affected and has defective X chromosome. Then that means that this female here, his wife, also have to have at least one defective X chromosome, and let's assume another one would be normal. Now let's take a look at this person. This is female, and let's assume that from the mother side she got normal X chromosome. So normal X chromosome. But from the father side she only can get defective X chromosome, and that means that if we assume that this is X-linked dominant genetic disorder, then there is no way that this female would be phenotypically normal. In this case, all female progeny have to be affected, because from the father side they only can inherit X chromosome, they cannot inherit normal Y chromosome, and if this X chromosome would be defective, then all the female progeny of this couple also have to be affected. But we see that this person is not affected, so we reject this variant. So this inheritance pattern only can be explained with autosomal dominant genetic disorder. And this is all for today. Subscribe and see you in the next video. Goodbye.